in Delhi Sultanate, there are the too many dynasties. One is your slave dynasty, Khalji dynasty, then Tughlaq dynasty, Sayyid Dynasty, and the Lodhi Dynasty. Iltutmish had organized a group of 40 nobles that is based on the Turkish racial superiority. And this is known as Turk-e-Chihilgani, and this is also known as Turk-e-Chalisa. If there is someone who is enrolled into the army of the Alauddin Khalji, then he cannot desert the army. Okay? If he deserts the army, then there will be a muster roll by which you will be again called back to the soldiers. It was only Rajput states that never accepted the suzerainty of the Akbar, that is called your Mewar. Hi everyone, I welcome you all in this session. In the next 1 hour, we will decode medieval India strictly from a UPSC perspective, focusing on concepts, linkages and high yield facts to help you revise faster, remember longer and answer better in the examination. So with this perspective, I'm going to start or open this session. So without wasting time, let's start. So see, first of all, I will cover Delhi Sultanate in this session, and then Vijayanagar and Bahamani, which is quite important for your prelims, Vijayanagar and Bahamani, and of course Mughals also. So these three topics that I'm going to cover from your exam perspective, right? So let's start without wasting the time. If I come to the Delhi Sultanate, right? In Delhi Sultanate, there are the too many dynasties. One is your slave dynasty. Some of the times this dynasty is also known as Mamluk dynasty, also known as the Elbari dynasty, and also the slave dynasty. Then this dynasty was followed by Khalji dynasty, then Tughlaq dynasty, Sayyid dynasty and the Lodhi dynasty. If I go by the time period, the slave dynasty is from or spans from 1206 to 1210, 1290 in fact, this is your 1290, and then Khalji is from 1290 to 1320. 1320 to 1414, and then 1414 to 1451 Sayyid, and then finally Lodhi Dynasty, that is your from 1451 to 1526. Right, what is important here, just so you try to understand. So sir ma'am, this Khalji dynasty that is spanned for only 30 years. So it was the shortest lived dynasty of the Delhi Sultanate. If I go for the Tughlaq dynasty, that survived for 94 years and it was the longest running dynasty of the Delhi Sultanate. So that is what I want to say. There's no need to go by the time period or these timelines. It is not important for you at all, right? So what you need to do is just memorize, sirs and ma'am, the Khalji dynasty, that is the shortest lived dynasty, and the Tughlaq dynasty is your longest lived dynasty. Is it okay? Is it fine? Now coming to the slave dynasty. The slave dynasty was founded by one of the military commanders or the governors of Muhammad Ghori, and his name was Qutubuddin Aibak. He had led the foundation of slave dynasty under the Delhi Sultanate, which was the first dynasty, right? This man, this person Qutubuddin Aibak, was a very generous man and he used to give the lavish donations. That's why he is known as Lakh Baksh. So these are the terms that may come in your exam, who is known as the Lakh Baksh. So he is known as the Lakh Baksh. Further, he had some kind of authority. He had developed some authority over the Quran, and that's why he is known as Quran Khawa. So these are two titles for Qutubuddin Aibak. Further, if I talk about some of the architectural development during the time of the Qutubuddin Aibak, then he had constructed two mosques that is important for our exam and one minar. The two of the mosques one was Quwwatul Islam Mosque, that is in Delhi, and then Arhai Din Ka Jhopda, that is in Ajmer. And further, he had constructed Qutub Minar in Delhi. In fact, he laid the foundation for the Qutub Minar, which was completed by Iltutmish, right? And he died in 1210 while playing Chaugan. And Chaugan used to be a medieval polo. And his capital was at Lahore. So his tomb is also in Lahore, right? So capital was in Lahore, and his tomb was also in Lahore, right? After him, Iltutmish came to the throne after some times. In between, there is one more sultan that is called Aramsa, but no need to discuss about him. So Iltutmish came to the throne, he had transferred the capital of Delhi Sultanate from Lahore to Delhi. As far as Iltutmish is concerned, he is considered as the first legal sultan or the real founder of the Delhi Sultanate. Why he is known as the real founder, or he is known as the first legal sultan of Delhi Sultanate, right? Legal sultan of the real founder, and he was the first legal sultan of the Delhi Sultanate. Legal sultan. If it is not here, that I'm going to write here, is the first legal sultan, of Delhi Sultanate. Legal sultan of Delhi Sultanate. What do you mean by that? Actually, during the medieval times, there was a tradition to take the manumission or the khillat from the caliph, right? So caliph being the head of, religious head and the political head of the Islamic world, so he used to give the manumissions or recognize the sultanship of any sultan or a ruler in any Islamic state. So he was the first sultan who had taken the blessings or the recognition or the manumission from the caliph, and that's why he is known as the first legal sultan of Delhi Sultanate, right? And he is known as the real founder because he had, Qutbuddin Aibak definitely had established the Delhi Sultanate, but he had not consolidated the Delhi Sultanate because he was in the paucity of the time. He had some scarcity of the time actually. He came to the throne in 1206 and within 4 years, he lost his life, right? So he could not consolidate the empire. This consolidation was done by the Iltutmish, and under his consolidation process, he had started Iqta system. Iqta. So what was this Iqta system? That is important as a concept. These Iqtas were the assignment of the land in lieu of the salary. Iqtadars had to maintain law and order. So what were their responsibility? What were their assignments if they have received the land as Iqta? So land, they have to maintain law and order, and collection of the revenue was the another thing, right? So after deducing his salary and expenses, they had to send the surplus to the central government. So there was also the space for surplus also. So one thing that is important here, the Iqtadar, Wali or the Mukti were responsible for land and law and maintaining the land, law and order, and then collection the revenue was another job. Further, they had to send extra, that is called the surplus, to the central government as well. That is something called Fawazil, that is called extra. So Iqtadars, so this was the thing. So one of the feature is maintenance of the law and order. Second is collection of revenue, and then they have to send the surplus to the central government, right? And now, one more thing is important is that this Iqtidari system was non-hereditary and transferable. It was non-hereditary, right? It was non-hereditary, and transferable. Non-hereditary and of course transferable. But later on, during the time of the Firoz Shah Tughlaq, this Iqtidari system was made hereditary. So originally it was non-hereditary, it was transferable, but Firoz Shah Tughlaq later, Firoz Shah Tughlaq had made it hereditary. So that is also important for you, sirs and madam, right? Is that okay? Now, so this was the one thing that was started by the Iltutmish, and then to have the support of some of the confidants, Iltutmish had organized a group of 40 nobles that is based on the Turkish racial superiority, and this is known as Turk-e Chihilgani, and this is also known as Turk-e Chalisa. So Turk-e Chihilgani and Turk-e Chalisa. So this was just to support the Sultan in his administrative work, right? But after the death or the demise of Iltutmish, this Turk-e Chihilgani or Turk-e Chalisa became very ambitious and powerful, and it started creating problem for the sultans in the days to come, right? So and therefore this Turk-e Chihilgani or Turk-e Chalisa was disbanded by Balban later on, right? It was discontinued, finally eliminated by Balban. So that is again important aspect that you should keep with yourself, and I believe this was a question once in the Prelims also. Who had disbanded the Turk-e Chihilgani or the Turk-e Chalisa? This was no other than the Balban, right? Now, as far as the economy is concerned, he had introduced two standardized coins, Arabic coins, standardized Arabic coins. One was Tanka, which was of silver, and other one was Jital, which was, sirs and madam, which was made up of your copper. So this was what is Iltutmish. And after Iltutmish, one of his daughter, in fact, Razia Sultan became the Sultan of Delhi Sultanate, and she was the first and the only female Sultan, or the Sultan of India, Sultan of India. So this much is only required for Razia Sultan. But since she was just a women, and it was not liked by the male chauvinist society, so she had to sacrifice her life also. But we need not to discuss all these things right over here. Now, after Razia Sultan, next one is important one. So important one is your Balban, right? So let me discuss about the Balban. It is said that Balban was the main architect of the Delhi Sultanate. Why he is known as the main architect of Delhi Sultanate? Actually, before the arrival of the Balban to the Sultanate, the office of Sultan was not an office of respect and dignity. There was no succession rule. Succession rule. Who will be the next Sultan? Right? Anyone could become the Sultan. In fact, Balban was not coming from the family of any of the sultans of Delhi Sultanate or the slave dynasty. He himself was a slave, and just because of his merit and talent, he came to the throne, right? So a slave is becoming the sultan, right? Are you getting me? In fact, majority of the sultans of the slave dynasty were earlier or initially were the slaves, right? So in this situation, the position and the status of the sultan was not of much respect and the dignity. So his understanding was that if I had to reign effectively in Delhi Sultanate, then I have to dignify the position or the office of the Sultan. And that's why he introduced some of the things, some new traditions in the Delhi Sultanate, right? First of all, he established his relationship with a mythical ruler of Iran, that is called Afrasiab. He said that I'm a person who is the descendant of the Afrasiab dynasty, right? The Afrasiab dynasty. And then he also introduced some of the Persian traditions in Delhi Sultanate or the slave dynasty, right? Like Sizda, Paibos, etc. Sizda, what is called Sizda? Sizda was nothing but simply it was called the prostration, right? So it is something like this. This is called the prostration. That is called Sizda. And then this is your Paibos, that is called kissing of the feet. What is the significance of this Sizda and the Paibos? Sizda and the Paibos. If I talk about the Sizda, it is all just to make everyone subservient to the position of the Sultan. Suppose I'm a Sultan and I'm in my chamber, and somebody is coming in my chamber, he will look at me and then he will start doing prostration. That is called Sizda. So whatever you are, whosoever you are, your position is just like this to me or before me. It is not the sufficient one. You will have to perform Sizda, and then you will have come before me, and then you will have to pick my feet and you will have to kiss. So your position is at my feet, right? Are you getting my points? So he used this Sizda and the Paibos, right? Paibos, right? Then he also introduced a new year festival of the Persians that is called Navroz. That was the thing, Sir and Madam, right? And again, I told you that he was a deeply racist. He was a racist sultan, and he had excluded non-Turks from the administration. He had excluded all the non-Turks, right? Because he was a racist. So he was a racist. So his belief was in the racial superiority of the Turks only. Is it okay? Is it fine? Excluded the non-Turks from the administration, right? And then he had organized the army to deal with the internal disturbances, and he had established the military department exclusively for the military. That is called Diwan-e-Arj. Before this department was attached to the Diwan-e-Unzarat, or that is called the finance department, right? And just to suppress his enemies, he had also introduced the policy of blood and iron, and it was especially for the Mewatis, because Mewatis were the freebooter communities in and around Delhi at that time. Mewati was a freebooter community. It was a booter community in and around Delhi. Community in and around Delhi. Is it okay? Is it fine, sir, ma'am? In and around Delhi. Is it okay? So now he had established this department that is called military department, that is called Diwan-e-Arj, right? And he had also came up with the policy of blood and iron just to suppress the Mewatis, right? Now, after slave dynasty, we can come to the Khilji dynasty. And again, Khilji dynasty is very much important, right? What is important about this Khilji dynasty? Some of the times, some of the scholars say that this establishment of the Khilji dynasty was something like a revolution. So it is known as Khilji or Khalji revolution also. So the beginning of this dynasty is called the Khalji revolution or Khilji revolution. Why it was a revolution, right? Some of this revolutionary thing happened with the arrival of the Khaljis in the Delhi Sultanate. And what was that? One most important aspect is, Sir Ma'am, during this Khilji dynasty, religion and politics was separated. Religion and politics was separated, were separated, right? Separated, right? How it was separated. I'm going to give you a certain example. The founder of this dynasty was Alauddin Khalji. Alauddin Khalji was the founder of this dynasty, and he was the first Sultan of Delhi Sultanate that said that the state should be based on the willing support of the governed, and the governed was coming from the non-Muslim community, that is called the Hindus, right? So he clearly said that state should be based on the willing support of the governed, and the governed was the non-Muslims, and they were Hindus, non-Muslims and Hindus. So he was against the concept of Darul Islam. Darul Islam means that is called the Islamic state. He said that Darul Islam is not possible for India because the majority of the population belongs to Hindus, right? And he had believed that the state should be based on the willing support of the governed. So that is very much important for you, right, Sir Madam? And that's why he had adopted the benevolent approach towards the Hindus, right? He avoided harsh punishments. Leniency was misunderstood as weakness by many people, including his supporters, right? So one thing that is here is very much clear. Religion and politics was separated because the founder of this dynasty, said that state should be based on the willing support of the governed. Now, second, Alauddin Khalji once said that he was the next Sultan of Delhi Sultanate, Khalji dynasty. Once he said that I don't know what is right or what is wrong. I don't know. He proclaimed that kingship knows no kinship, and I don't know this is lawful or unlawful. I do whatever I think to be good for the state. And he had rejected the authority of the ulemas. Ulemas were the Islamic scholars or scholars of the Islam. So he just rejected their authority in the Delhi Sultanate. Now again, there was a next Sultan that is called Mubarak Shah Khilji. Mubarak Shah Khilji declared himself that I myself is Caliph. That is called the religious head of the Islam. So I don't know any Caliph, rather I myself is what that is called Caliph. And he took the title of Al-Basiq Billah, one who places unwavering trust in Allah. That is called Almighty God. Is it okay? So now what is your understanding now? So this is very much clear, Sir and Madam, that if I talk about this, so there was a complete separation of the religion and the politics during the Khilji dynasty. And in that sense, there is other factors as well. But in that sense, we can say that it was a revolutionary dynasty in the Delhi Sultanate. Is it fine? Now, so we're done with Alauddin Khalji. Is this okay with us? Now, one of the factors is Alauddin Khalji. He led the foundation of Khilji dynasty, and he was the first Sultan of Delhi Sultanate to adopt benevolent approach towards the Hindus. During his reign, one of his nephew, whose name is Alauddin Khalji, an original name is Ali Gurshab, had invaded Devgiri and plundered Devgiri without the permission of Alauddin Khalji. Because Alauddin Khalji was a young man, he was a young blood, and he had no respect for the lenient approach or the what I say that is called the moderate policies of or the liberal policies of Alauddin Khalji. So he wanted to replace him from the office of Sultan, right? So first, before making any kind of the revolt or rebellions, or in fact killing the Alauddin Khalji, he tried to accumulate money in his hand, right? Accumulate money in his hand so that if he could do anything against this Alauddin Khalji, then he could use that money to suppress the voice which could be against him, right? So from Devgiri expedition, he earned a huge money without the permission of Jaluddin Khalji, right? Now, and after some times, after this expedition, by conspiracy, he had killed Jaluddin Khalji and came to the throne of Delhi Sultanate. Now, Alauddin Khalji came to the office of Sultan. He was a very ambitious Sultan, and he had adopted some of the policies. What were his policies, right? In fact, he had reversed the tolerant policies of Jaluddin Khalji. As I told you that he had no respect for the policies furthered by Jaluddin Khalji. So he just reversed the policy of Jaluddin Khalji and adopted the policies of the ruthless policies of the Balban, right? So he just reversed the policy of Jaluddin Khalji and adopted the policies of Balban, right? Now, as he had taken too many reforms, right, and one of his reform was to suppress the nobility. So he to curb the power of the nobles or the nobility and the interference of the ulemas in the matters of the state. Okay, so he curbed the powers of the nobility and also curbed the power of the ulemas. Ulemas were the Islamic law. He was not liking the interference of the ulemas in the matter of the politics and the administration. So he just contained them, right? Now, during his time, from the northwest India, there was the maximum invasion of the Mongols. Mongol was a menace for the Delhi Sultanate since the time of the Iltutmish, right? Although the first Mongol invasion was on India was taken place during the time of Bahram Shah, not during the time of Iltutmish. In fact, in some of the books and some of the coaching notes, you will find that it was during the time of Iltutmish, but actually the first Mongol invasion was during the time of Bahram Shah under the that is his name was Tatar Khan. I can recall the name of that. Okay, so this was during the time of the Bahram Shah, not during the time of Iltutmish. But anyways, the maximum invasion of the Mongols had taken place during the time of your Alauddin Khalji. So he had established a permanent standing army to address this problems to this problem, right? So he had established the first permanent standing army, and he also introduced some military reforms, like what? He was the first Sultan of Delhi Sultanate to give the permanent salary, the regular salary, right? He started giving them the salary, right? Is it okay? Permanent army, salary, cash salary. He started giving cash salary, right? Cash salary. And he also ensured that whatever the salary is given to his soldiers, that would be sufficient for him. And that's why he also brought reforms in the market. He regulated the market. Is it okay? So permanent standing army. Then during his time, Mongols came till Delhi. That is a very important fact. In fact, it was asked in your prelims that during whose reign Mongols had invaded till Delhi. So, but the third Mongol invasion, Khwaza, came up to the Delhi during the time of Alauddin Khalji. That is very much important point. During the time of Alauddin Khalji itself, Khwaza, the leader of the Mongols, came up to Delhi. However, he was prevented from entering into the capital city, right? So now his other reforms are military reforms. So in the first military reform, I told you that he was the first Sultan to have permanent standing army. He was the first Sultan to pay cash to his soldiers. He introduced the system of dag, that is called the branding of the horse, to short the best quality of the horse, and that were the Arabi horse, right? So he started the tradition of branding of the horse, that is called the dag, and then he also started maintaining chehra, and this is also called chehra and tasweer, that is called descriptive role of the soldiers, right? So once you are, what do you mean? What is the purpose of this chehra? If there is someone who is enrolled into the army of the Alauddin Khalji, then he cannot desert the army. Okay? If he deserts the army, then there will be a muster roll by which you will be again called back to the soldiers. So this is called branding of the horse, and chehra was keeping the description of a descriptive role of the soldiers, right? Now, market reforms. In order to keep his army satisfied, whatever the salary is given to them, I told you, that should be sufficient, and that's why he had regulated the market, and he brought market reforms. In order to keep his army satisfied with their salary, the Sultan introduced strict price control measures based on production cost, and he established 4 separate markets. One was meant for grains, other was for clothes and the grocery, third one was for horses, cattle and the slaves, and the fourth market was called the miscellaneous markets. And there used to be market controller, that is known as Sahana, that's called market controller. Then there used to be the Barits, they were also the intelligence officers, and the Buniyas, who were the direct secret agent of the Sultan submitted their independent reports on these markets to the Sultan so that he could cross-check the information given to the Sultan. So this was a well-spanned system operating in the markets also, right? Now, coming to the land reforms. Again, he was the first Sultan of Delhi Sultanate who ordered the measurement of the land, right? And the state officials measured the cultivated land and fixed the land revenue accordingly, right? And again, he was the first ruler of Delhi Sultanate to fix revenue in cash. Alauddin Khalji collected land taxes directly from the cultivators. There was no middleman. So just he ended the role of the middleman or the intermediaries between the state and the cultivators. Is it okay? So this was his reform now. Now, as I told you, theory of the kingship. His theory of kingship was again secular to some extent, and he proclaimed kingship knows no kinship, and I don't know if this is lawful or unlawful. I do whatever I think to be good for the state, right? So this is how he had just stopped the interference of the ulemas in the matter of the politics. Now, if I talk about his cultural approaches, he was the patron, he was a great patron of the scholars, and one of the scholars and the poet was Amir Khusrau in his court. Amir Khusrau. Then was Mir Hasan Dehlavi. He also built famous gateways known as Alai Darwaza. He also constructed horse cars in Delhi, also called Alai Minar. These all were in Delhi, and also constructed a new capital that is called Siri, and it is today known as Siri Fort, and that is located in Delhi itself. Alauddin adopted the title of Sikandar-e-Azam. Actually, it is said somewhere that he had the same ambition like of the Alexander. He wanted to conquer the world. But on the advice of the Qazi of Delhi, he left this idea. But before that, he had taken the title of Sikandar-e-Azam and gave Amir Khusrau also the title of Tut-e-Hind, that is called Parrot of India. He also included non-Turks in his service. So he left the policy of racial policy of the Turks, which was adopted by Balban. He also included, unlike Balban, he also included the non-Turks in his administrative services, right? So this was the thing, sir, madam. Now, what are the contribution of the Amir Khusrau? Amir Khusrau is very popular for your exam. He saw the reign of 8 sultans, including Alauddin Khalji. So it means that Amir Khusrau was not only in the court of Alauddin Khalji. Rather, before him, he had also served in the different sultans of Delhi Sultanate. He was a Persian, that is called Iranian, and he was a Sufi musician, poet, and the scholars. And it is said that he is the father of the Qawwali, which is a kind of light music. He was the father of Qawwali. He was a disciple of a Sufi saint whose name is Nizamuddin Auliya. He brought into circulation 2 specific musical genres. One is called your Tarana, and other one is your Khayal. He composed poetry in Urdu, and he had also written books like Nuh Sipihir, Tughlaq Nama, Khazain-ul-Futuh, etc. And it is also said that he had introduced a new musical instrument that is called tabla. So these are the contributions of Amir Khusrau, right, sir and madam? Now, coming to Qutbuddin Mubarak Shah. And the one important thing is that he had declared himself that he himself is Caliph. Now, coming to Tughlaq Dynasty. Now, I could say you that the maximum expansion of the Delhi Sultanate, was during the time of the Tughlaqs. But unfortunately, Tughlaq dynasty, TD stands for Tughlaq dynasty, also started declining, also declined during the time of Tughlaqs, during the time of Tughlaqs, right? MBT had created, Muhammad bin Tughlaq had created the largest empire under Delhi Sultanate, Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So this is the area that you can see, the shaded, which is shaded in the, the purple or the pink, you can say. It was created by, this empire was created by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. But during the time of Muhammad bin Tughlaq itself, Delhi Sultanate started declining. Vijayanagar, Bahamani, Madura, these are the states that proclaimed their independence from the south, right? Chalo. So let's continue now. So now within this Tughlaq dynasty, the first sultan is Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. In fact, Sultan Madam, he was the first sultan to take the title of Ghazi. And what is the meaning of Ghazi? Ghazi means slayer of infidels, that is called kafir. Again, the founder of this dynasty, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, was the first sultan of Delhi Sultanate to start irrigation works. He built a strong fort called Tughlaqabad near Delhi. And he had not a good relation with a Sufi saint whose name is Sheikh Nizamuddin Aulia. So he had troublesome relationship with this Sufi saint. And it is said that just because of the curse of this Sufi saint, Nizamuddin Aulia, he had to compromise with his life. And when a wooden pavilion had fallen on his head, and he died after his successful expedition of the Bengal. So, but died due to the collapse of the wooden structure. Some scholars like Ibn Battuta believe that his death was an act of sabotage orchestrated by his son Jana Khan, and it was due to the curse of Nizamuddin Aulia Sahib as well. Actually, it is said that once Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq was out for expedition, and this expedition was in Bengal. So when he was coming from the Bengal expedition, successful expedition of the Bengal, he was received by his son in the outer skirts of Delhi, whose name is Jana Khan, and later known as Muhammad bin Tughlaq, right? And before coming to Delhi, his relation was not good with the Nizamuddin Aulia Sahib. So there are two things. One, some of the scholars say that it was the curse of Nizamuddin Aulia that he died before coming to Delhi. And the second, some of the historians of the time believe that it was the conspiracy hatched by his son Jana Khan to kill his father and get the throne, right? So both are the things over there. But if I go by the historicity, both of the facts are not correct. But for us, it is important with whom his relation was not good, that is Nizamuddin Aulia, and who had welcomed him in the outer skirts of Delhi. And during his welcome, he was died, and Jana Khan became the next Sultan of Delhi Sultanate under the title of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So that is important. But if you go by the historicity, then you can understand that it is not the curse of one कि आपका death हो जाए. You cannot be died just because of someone's curse. And the second is certain amount. It was not the conspiracy of his son Jana Khan. Rather, there was a huge army of elephants. There was a good number of the elephants in his army, right? And when the elephants keep on moving, right, the earth tramples, shocks. Okay? And just because of that, one of the wooden pavilion of the structure which was created by Jana Khan to welcome his father just fallen on his head, right? Just because of this, the movement of the earth, right? It was not the conspiracy, and it was just on his head and he died, right? So this is the story. So the story is described in detail by Isami and Ibn Battuta in regard to the conspiracy hatched by the Jana Khan in the death of Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, but it is not the reality. Now coming to, after the Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, his son Jana Khan became the Sultan under the title of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, right? Now this Muhammad bin Tughlaq is known for his experiments, and one of his experiments is transferring the capital from Delhi to Daulatabad. Why he had transferred his capital from Delhi to Daulatabad? Actually, he had created a vast empire in North India and in the South India, and Delhi was here. So there are two aspects, sir, madam. Since the empire was extensive, So he wanted to have his capital to somewhere in his, his sultanate or in his empire, from where he could maintain the effective control in all the direction of his empire, north, south, west, and east as well. Second, Delhi was very close to the northwest frontier province, through which there was the frequent invasions of the invaders like Mongols. So he wanted to have a protected capital, and that's why he had decided to transfer his capital from Delhi to Daulatabad, and he transferred his capital to Daulatabad. But he could not wait for the long, and he again came back to Delhi. So this was his policy that got failed. Then he increased the tax in Doab region. What is Doab? Doab is the region of the two rivers. There was an objective in his mind that if I will increase the rate of taxation in the Doab region, the people will give it happily, because it is the region where we can expect more protection, right? So there is a more income. If there is a more income, then people will pay more taxes. But he had increased the tax in the Doab region at the time of the crisis. So he was abused by the people. It was a famine, and it was just a post. There was a not famine, you can say, there was a drought over in the Doab region. So during the drought, people were expecting some kind of relief from the side of the Sultan, but instead of that, Sultan had increased the tax in the Doab region, right? When there was a crisis in the international market, and that crisis was of silver, and silver was the base metal for the coinage system. So just to sustain the economy, he introduced the copper currency. That was a token currency, but there was no safety measure. So again, this was backfired, because fake coins were manufactured throughout the Delhi. So he had to withdraw it. Preparation for Khorasan expedition and the Karachi expedition. Khorasan expedition was also a failure, because before moving for the expedition, he just withdrew from this expedition. And Karachi expedition, that was in Himachal Pradesh, where he had to compromise a good number of his soldiers in the hills of the Himachal, right? So all of his experiments, though some of them were with well-intention, got failed one after the another, and that's why he is known as the ill-fated Sultan of Delhi's Sultanate. Now coming to the cultural outlook of the Muhammad bin Tughlaq, he was the only Delhi Sultan who had received a comprehensive literary, religious, and philosophical education. He knew Arabic and Persian languages and was expert in philosophy, astronomy, logic, and mathematics, and was a good calligraphist as well. He was tolerant in religious matters, and he had good relations with both Bhakti and the Sufi saints, sirs and madam, right? Now, his diplomatic relations. During his time, the famous traveler Ibn Battuta came to India from Morocco, and he had written a book that is called Safarnama, and that is popularly known as Rehla, Ibn Battuta. In 1333, he came to India, and he remained in Delhi as a Qazi. He acted as a Qazi in Delhi for 8 years. Ibn Battuta was a merchant traveler, explorer, and Islamic scholar from Tangier, that is in North Africa. Now, he had taken some relief measures also. So he had started giving Takavi loans to enable the cultivators to buy seeds, to sink wells, and to extend cultivation. So Takavi loan was advanced agricultural loan. It was advanced agricultural loan. Is it okay? For the welfare of agriculture, he also established a new department that's called Diwan-e-Kohi, that's called Department of Agriculture. He also formulated a famine code to provide relief to the famine affected people, right? Now, during the time of Muhammad bin Tughlaq itself, the Delhi Sultanate started declining, and Vijayanagar, Bahamani, and Sultanate of Madurai become free. They proclaimed their independence. Vijayanagar was established by the two brothers. They are known as Harihara and Bukka in 1336. In 1347, Hasan Gangu or Alauddin Bahman Shah had established the Bahamani kingdom, and Sultanate of Madurai was also free. The rebellion of Hasan Shah resulted in the establishment of the Madura Sultanate as well. So it was the Muhammad bin Tughlaq who had created the largest empire in Delhi Sultanate, but unfortunately during his time, the Delhi Sultanate also started collapsing, disintegrating and declining and disintegrating. Now next Sultan is Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Firoz Shah Tughlaq had adopted the appeasement policy because before him many of the sultans had kept the ulemas away from the sultanate, right? And just because of the unnecessary expenses of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the treasure was almost empty, right? So in this condition, now he wanted to have the support of his own people, so he had to follow or adopt the policy of the appeasement so that he could get the support of the Muslim scholars, nobility to consolidate his position in Delhi Sultanate, right? Is that okay? So he had taken the appeasement policy, and this appeasement policy was anti-Hindu policies by and large. Firoz Shah led a campaign against the Jajnagar, and this Jajnagar is in Orissa. When he was returning from this expedition, he had taken good war booty acquired from the temples such as the Puri Jagannath temple. He also marched against Nagarkot and made its ruler pay him tributes. During his campaign, Sultan collected 1300 Sanskrit manuscripts from the Jwalamukhi temple library, and got them translated into Persian by Arizuddin Khan in Persian language under the title of Dalal-e Firoz Shahi. So what is Dalal-e Firoz Shahi? That can be asked in your exam. What is Dalal-e Firoz Shahi? Is it okay? Now, he not only reviewed the Iqtidari system but also made it hereditary. So that is already discussed, right? He was the first sultan to impose that is called irrigation tax. That is again important one. Irrigation tax. He was the first to impose the irrigation tax. But at the same time, he built a number of canals and also set up separate department of public works as well in Delhi Sultanate. Some of his new establishments, like he had established new departments like Diwan-e-Bandagan. This Diwan-e-Bandagan was a department for the slaves, right? Then he had established Diwan-e-Khara. This was a department for charity. And he had also established free hospitals like Darul Safa, and he also established marriage bureau for the marriage of the poor Muslim women. Okay, and again, there's one more thing, that he also brought Ashokan pillars from Topra and Meerut to Delhi, right? So these are things about the Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Now coming to other aspect, he had written his autobiography that is called Futuhat-e Firoz Shahi in the Persian language. The next Sultan is Nasruddin Muhammad. Why he is important? Because during his time, Temurlang invaded India in 1398 from Central Asia, right? Temurlang. So invasion of Temurlang took place during the time of Nasruddin Muhammad in 1398. Now coming to Sayyid Dynasty, that is not a very significant dynasty. It is a very short dynasty without much of historical significance, but there are some of the aspects that is important that we need to discuss. Sayyids. These Sayyids are also known as Kulah-e-Duran, okay, which is a respected group of the people who claim descent from Prophet Muhammad and used to wear a distinctive pointed cap called Kulah and Dastar Bandan, that is called turban bearers, right? So they will what? The pointed cap bearers. That's why they are known as Kulah-e-Duran, right? Other important rulers, if I talk about, Khilji Khan was the founder of this dynasty. Was the first ruler of Sayyid Dynasty. That's done. Now coming to the Lodhi Dynasty, the last dynasty of Delhi Sultanate, right? This dynasty was established by Bahlol Lodhi, and he was the Afghan. So Lodhi Dynasty is the first Afghan dynasty of Delhi Sultanate. First Afghan dynasty of Delhi. Okay, of Delhi. So he was the first. Bahlol Lodhi was the founder of this dynasty, and he had introduced a Bahloli coin. And this coin was made up of copper. That is an again important thing, sirs and madam. Now coming to the most important ruler of this dynasty, and he was Sikandar Lodhi. Sikandar Lodhi, he had introduced a new measurement unit that is known as Gaz-e-Sikandari, right? He also established a new city that is called Agra, established or founded city of Agra in 1504 and made it his capital also. He used to write poems under the name of Gul Rukhi. Gul Rukhi was his pen name. Under this pen name, he used to write poems. He shifted the capital from Delhi to Agra in 1504. This is what about Sikandar Lodhi. Now coming to the last Sultan of Delhi Sultanate, that is called Ibrahim Lodhi, right? Ibrahim Lodhi. During the time of Ibrahim Lodhi, Delhi Sultanate was quite contracted, right? And he was frequently challenged by the Rajput states. And just because of that, he had a battle with the ruler of Mewar, Rana Sanga, and that is called the Battle of Khatoli in 1570, in which Rana Sanga had defeated Ibrahim Lodhi. So Rana Sanga of Mewar defeated in Battle of Khatoli in 1517. He was defeated by Rana Sanga in the Battle of Khatoli. And then the decisive battle with the Babur was fought in 1526, that is known as the first battle of the Panipat. Babur marched against Delhi, and the first battle of Panipat took place in 1526, in which he had defeated the Ibrahim Lodhi and established the Mughal Empire in Delhi. And he was the first Sultan of Delhi who was killed in the battlefield, Ibrahim Lodhi. So Ibrahim Lodhi was killed in the battlefield itself, right? Is it okay? So this is what was about the Delhi Sultanate, right? So I'm taking you to some other discussions. Now coming to the Vijayanagar Empire, right? So now you can recall well, during the time of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the two brothers, Harihar and Bukka, had established the Vijayanagar Empire in 1336, right? In this Vijayanagar Empire, if I talk about, there were the four dynasties that were ruling one after the another, and in sequence, that is called Sangam Dynasty, then Sulava Dynasty, then Tuluva Dynasty, and then is the Ariwadu Dynasty. So Harihar and Bukka had established this dynasty that is called Sangam Dynasty after the name of their father, right? Their father. So now Harihar and Bukka established. Initially, this Harihar and Bukka were the feudatories of Kakatiyas of Warangal. So before establishing Vijayanagar Empire, they served into the Kakatiyas, and then there is one more, and that is called Kampili. So they were serving in the Kakatiyas, and then Kampili also. And after the fall of Kakatiyas, they joined Kampili state, right? So they worked with Kakatiyas and the Kampili before establishing the Vijayanagar Empire. Some accounts say that after the invasion of the Muhammad bin Tughlaq in South India, the two brothers were taken prisoner to Delhi and converted to Islam. And then when they came to South India, then one of his guru, that is called Vidyaranya, had reconverted him into the Hindu fold and helped them in the establishment of the Vijayanagar Empire, right? Vijayanagar Empire. So now before that, before moving into the further into the Vijayanagar Empire, we need to discuss about the Kakatiyas also, because Kakatiyas, in the Kakatiya dynasty, Harihar and Bukka were the officials. So let me talk about the Kakatiyas. So the Kakatiya dynasty, was reigning from 12th to 14th century, and today it was corresponding in the Telangana state. Harihar and Bukka initially served under the Chalukyas of the Kalyani and later declared independence. Kakatiyas were under the feudatories of the Chalukyas, and then they have established their independent rule. Their capital was, and the Kakatiyas' capital was Orugalu, that is Warangal. A famous ruler of this dynasty was Rudrama Devi, and she was a skilled female ruler known for her administrative skills. Warangal was a trade center attracting merchants and travelers, including the Italian explorer that is called Marco Polo, right? And Motupalli was the chief port of the Kakatiyas. So what is important here? The chief port of the Kakatiyas. Ports are very much important. So Motupalli was a premium port of the Kakatiyas, and the capital was Orugalu, that is called the Warangal of the Kakatiyas. And before establishing the independent rule by the Kakatiyas, they were the feudatories of the Chalukyas. These are three important points that you should keep with yourself, right? Now, again, back to the Vijayanagar Empire, right? Vijayanagar Empire. So, during the time of the Harihara first, who was the first ruler of the Vijayanagar Empire, he had defeated and captured the Hoysala state. And at this time, Birbal III was the ruler. Actually, when Vijayanagar Empire was established, right? When Vijayanagar Empire was established, right? So, Vijayanagar Empire. So, within, Vijayanagar Empire, there was the two states, that is called Madura, and other one was the Hoysala. So, both of them were keeping hostilities towards the Vijayanagar Empire. So, Vijayanagar, what did, Harihara first had defeated the ruler of Hoysala and annexed his territory into the Vijayanagar Empire. And at this time, the ruler of Hoysala was Birbal III. Initial capital of the Vijayanagar was Anaigundi. And this Anaigundi was located on the bank of river Tungbhadra in Karnataka. Later shifted to Hampi, then to Penugonda, and then to Chandragiri. So these were the capitals of, in different times, these are capitals of the Vijayanagar Empire, right? The old name of this Anaigundi is Kiskindha, and this Kiskindha is known for the kingdom of Monkey King Bali, right? And within this Anaigundi, there is a hill that is called Anjanadri, and this Anjanadri is considered as the birthplace of Lord Hanumana. So these are the important aspects. Now coming to some other important rulers. After Harihara first, Bukka first became the next ruler of the Vijayanagar Empire. One of his son, whose name is Kumara Kampan, he had expanded the Vijayanagar Empire towards the Madura, and he had conquered the Madura. So after his conquering the Madura, after his successful conquest of the Madura, Kumar Kampan's wife Ganga Devi had written a book that is called Madura Vijayam, in which he had praised the achievement of her husband Kumara Kampan, who was the son of Bukka first, right? And during the time of Bukka first itself, the conflict between the Vijayanagar and Bahamani started. Bahamani and Vijayanagar started. So that is again important. Vijayanagar-Bahamani conflict started during the time of the Bukka first. And when this conflict is started, during this conflict, Bahamani had used gunpowder for the first time in India on the Mughal fort against the Vijayanagar Empire. And in North India, it was used first time, the gunpowder was used by Babur. But in Indian context or in the South India, it was used by the Bahamani against the Vijayanagar on the Mughal fort. Is it okay? Is it fine? Sure. Now coming to the other important kings, Devraya is another important king. Devraya is very important because there's some important information in regard to the Vijayanagar Empire during the time of Devraya. He had supported irrigation works in his kingdom, right? He made two dams, one on the Tungbhadra river and other on the Haryudra river, right? Tungbhadra river dam was meant to supply water to the city of the Vijayanagar, and the dam of the river Haryudra was for the irrigation purposes. And he was the first ruler of Delhi, the Vijayanagar Empire, who had introduced the Muslim archers or the Turkish archers or the Muslim soldiers in his army. So first time Turkish archers in Vijayanagar army was introduced by him itself. During his time, Italian traveler Niccolo Conti visited Vijayanagar Empire around 1420 AD. The observation of the Niccolo Conti is that he had mentioned about the Mahanavami, which was celebrated with great enthusiasm in this city. So observation of Niccolo Conti is very much important, right? Is it fine? Now, coming to Devraya II. Devraya II was a great expert in hunting the elephants, and that's why he had taken the title that is called Gaz-Beidgara, right? Gaz-Beidgara. So he took the title of Gaz-Beidgara, that is called Hunter of the Elephants, right? He was a man of letters also, and he authored a book that is called Mahanatak Sudhanidhi in the Sanskrit. Abdul Razak, he was a Persian traveler who came to Vijayanagar during his time. The Iranian ambassador who visited the Indian subcontinent during the time of Devraya II noted that the Vijayanagar, there are three types of the coins were prominently used, and these coins were Varaha type of the coins, Dinar type of the coins, and then Phanam. Phanam was also asked in your examination recently. Phanam. So Phanam was a coin. Varaha, Dinar, and Phanam. Now coming to the next king, that is called Virupaksha. He was the last ruler of the Sangama dynasty, the first dynasty of the Vijayanagar Empire. Then Sulava is not much important. The founder of this dynasty was Tuluva Narasimha, and the last king was Imadi Narasimha. Now, Tuluva dynasty is very much important because this dynasty was established by Imadi Narasimha, Veera Narasimha, and established Tuluva dynasty. The most famous king of this dynasty was Krishnadevaraya. Krishnadevaraya was the most famous king of this dynasty. He was the greatest king of this dynasty, and he is known as by different name Andhra Pitama, Andhra Bhoja, etc. He was a great patron of art and the literature. During his in fact, the Krishnadevaray's relation was very good with the Portuguese, and during his time, two of the Portuguese travelers came to his court. One is Domingo Paz, another is Barbosa. During his reign, right? His court was adorned by the 8 eminent scholars or the poets of Telugu, known as Ashtadiggasa. 8 eminent Telugu scholars in his court, including Allasani Pedana, Tenali Ramakrishna, and Pingali Suranama, and others, right? Now, Krishnadevaraya, he himself was a scholar man, and he was a scholar king, and he had authored books like Amukta Malyada, that is in Telugu language, and then Jamvati Kalyanam and Usha Parinayam in Sanskrit language. He built some fine stone temples such as Vitthal Swami and Hazara Swami, Ramaswamy temples, Hampi. So this was his achievement. But after the death of, and he also established a town that is called Naglapuram in the memory of his mother Nagla Devi. After the death of Krishnadevaraya, there was a succession issue because none of his sons was the adult one, they were the minors. But anyhow, after his death, one of his brothers, Achyuta Devraya, became the ruler of Vijayanagar Empire. And during the reign of Achyuta Devraya, a Portuguese traveler, Fernão Nunes, came to India. And his observation about is that Vijayanagar Empire is that Nunes noted that the presence of women soothsayers, astrologers, and wrestlers in the Vijayanagar Empire. A common practice noted among the rich was polygamy, with men marrying more than one wife. So this was the observation of the Nunes in the Vijayanagar Empire. Child marriage, he also informed that child marriage was common. Big dowries were demanded on the time of the marriage. Brahmins were honest and good at accountancy, and sati was a common practice. So these all were the observations of the Nunes for the Vijayanagar Empire, right, sir and madam? Now, Krishnadevaraya's son, after Achyuta Devraya, one of his sons became the ruler of Vijayanagar, and his name was Sadasiv Raya. But again, he was a minor, so he was under the regency of his brother-in-law or the son-in-law of Krishnadevaraya, whose name was Ramraya. Sadasiv Raya was the last ruler of Tuluva Dynasty. During his reign, the Battle of Talikota or Rakshastangri was fought. It is also known as the Battle of Banihatti in 1565. In this battle, Vijayanagar Empire was decisively defeated. And after this battle of Talikota, Rakshastangri or Banihatti, of course, the Vijayanagar Empire survived for the next 100 years, but the glory and the dignity of this empire, Vijayanagar Empire, was lost forever. So after that, Arivadu dynasty will continue, but it will end. Right, sirs and madam? Okay. In fact, in this battle, Talikota and the Rakshastangri, a confederation of the Dakkini states was made, and this was made up with Ahmednagar, Bijapur, Golconda, and Bidar. Barar was not into this alliance against the Vijayanagar Empire in this battle, right? So the Dakkini states, Bijapur, Ahmedabad, Golconda, and Bidar had made an alliance against the Vijayanagar Empire, excluding Berar. Excluding Berar. Berar was not in this. Formed a confederation against the Vijayanagar Empire in this battle and defeated Vijayanagar Empire, right? After that, Vijayanagar Empire was destroyed, Ram Raya was executed. The battle is generally considered to mark the end of the Vijayanagar Empire, though the kingdom lingered for nearly 100 years, more years in the weakened state, right? Arivari Dynasty. This was established by the Tirumala II, and Sriranga III was the last ruler of the Vijayanagar Empire. That's it. Now, administration. If I talk about the Vijayanagar Empire, was divided into the mandalams, that is called the provinces. Then it was divided into your nadus into sthalas, and sthalas into the gramas. And Gora was the village headman. So that is an important office, right? Mandaleshwar or Nayaka was the head of the mandalams, right? There was also the the local government. But this local government was not as strong as the Cholas had. Cholas had the autonomous village self-government. Now coming to the cultural aspect. During the Vijayanagar Empire, Lipakchi mural painting developed. Then Bomlatta, which was a dance of the leather puppet, that also developed in Vijayanagar Empire. Now Yakshini style, a new style of dance and music developed, that is known as the Yakshini style. Is it okay? Now coming to the Bahamani Empire, right, sister madam? This empire was again, the Bahmani state was also established during the time of the Muhammad bin Tughlaq by Hasan Gangu, and who had taken the title of Alauddin Bahman Shah after becoming the Sultan. So it was established by Hasan Gangu, who assumed the title of Alauddin Hasan Bahman Shah, right? Then there was a very famous king of this dynasty, that is called Tajuddin Firoz Shah. This was a very remarkable figure, and he was one of the greatest rulers of the Bahmani Empire. He invaded Vijayanagar with victories in 1398, faced the defeat in 1420 by the Devraya-I, right? Anyways, what is important about him? That he was a good calligraphist, and he encouraged the pursuit of astronomy and built the observatory at Daulatabad, that is called Firoz Shah, right? Firoz Shah. Is it okay? He also inducted a large number of Hindus in his administration. According to Farista, Farista was a scholar of the medieval times. He says that he was well versed not only in Telugu, Kannada and Marathi, but also in Persian, Arabic and Turkish. Different wives, different languages. To interact with his different wives, different wives of different origin, so that he could talk to them in their languages. Now, Ahmad Shah. Ahmad Shah is known as Wali. That is important. Why he is known as a Wali? Because he had a close relation with a Sufi saint whose name is Gesu Daraz, right? Saint means Wali. Wali is called saint. Just because of his association with a Sufi saint, Gesu Daraz. Now coming to Humayun Shah. Actually, during his time, there was a Iranian or the Persian merchant whose name is Mahmud Gawa. He was very much impressed by the administrative skills, economic skills of Mahmud Gawa. So he had appointed him in his service and given him the title of Malikut-Tuzar, that is called the chief of the merchants. Malikut-Tuzar, chief of the merchants, right? Merchants. After Humayun Shah's death, Gawa became the guardian of his minor sons, Nizam Shah, and he had reign of the government in his hands. Muhammad Shah, Nizam Shah, after his death, Muhammad Shah became the next ruler or the Sultan, Muhammad Shah III. However, he was young Sultan, died in, Nizam Shah died in 1463, and his brother Muhammad Shah, who was aged only 9 years, became the next Sultan. And Muhammad Gawa served for him as the prime minister, right? The power of Bahmani kingdom reached its peak under the rule of Muhammad Shah III, just due to the advice and services of the Muhammad Gawa. But when this Muhammad Shah III grown up, he was whispered into the ears by his flatterers against the Mahmud Gawa. So finally, Mahmud Gawa was executed under some kind of the conspiracy by Muhammad Shah III, right? And after his death, Bahmani Empire broke up into the 5 states. And these states were Ahmednagar with Nizam Shahi Dynasty, then Adil Shahi Dynasty, and that was of Bijapur, then Qutub Shahi Dynasty of Golconda, and then Imad Shahi Dynasty of, that is of Barar, and then the Barid Shahi Dynasty of Bidar is okay, which are collectively known as the Dakhni states. Is it okay? Right? And this Ahmednagar would be now during the time of the Mughals annexed by the Shah Jahan, Shah Jahan, and Bijapur and Golconda, and were annexed by Aurangzeb into the Mughal Empire. Is it okay? So that is what is understanding. So these are the Dakhni states: Ahmednagar, Barar, Bidar, Bijapur, and Golconda. Sir, madam. Is it okay? Now, so coming to the last topic, and this topic is your Mughals, right? So Mughal Empire was established by Babur after defeating Ibrahim Lodhi. Right, sir and madam? Ibrahim Lodhi. If I talk about the Babur was he was a mixed blood. From his father's sides, he was the Turk and the descendant of the Tamurlang, and from the side of his mother, he was a Mongol. That was the descendant of the Chengiz Khan. Is it okay? After coming into Delhi, it means that after establishing the Mughal Empire, after the first battle of the Panipat, he had to fight several other battles to secure his position in India, right? So one of his battle was after the Panipat, he had to fight the battle of Khanwa after Panipat in 1526. He had to fought the battle of Khanwa in 1527, then battle of Chanderi in 1528, and then battle of Ghagra in 1529. And 1530 he died. Babur died. Is it okay? And his tomb is at present, in Kabul. Is it okay, sirs and madam? Kabul, right? Right. So these are the things, sirs and madam. Now coming to some other aspects. Contribution of the Babur. Babur was not only a warrior but also a scholar. He was also a cultured man. He had written his autobiography that is known as Tuzuk-e Baburi in a mother tongue that is called Chagtai Turk. Right? Chagtai Turk. It is important because the official language of Mughals and Delhi Sultanate was Persian, right? Was Persian, right? Tuzuk-e Baburi, written in Tuzuk-e, that's in the Turkic language. That's not in the Persian language. Yet it was translated in the Persian by Abdur Rahim Khan-e-Khana during the time of Akbar. He also wrote Masnavi, that is a collection of Sufi poems. Besides, he was also a follower of Naqshbandiya Sufi Silsila, and his guru was Khwaja Ubaidullah Ahrar. He had also written books like Ubayya, which is the Muslim law, compilation of Muslim law. He also wrote some of the poems under the title of Divan, and he also introduced the Charbagh style in the Mughal architecture, and he built some of the mosques like Panipat and in Rohilkhand. So this was all about Babur. Now coming to Humayun, right? Humayun, he came to the throne after the death of his father in 1530, but his authority was challenged by the Afghans of the eastern and the western part of India. And in the eastern Afghan, he was challenged by a formidable power whose name was Sher Shah. So in the Battle of Chausa in 1539, he was defeated, and then he was further defeated in the Battle of Kannauj in 1540. And after the Battle of Kannauj, he had to leave India for 15 years, and he spent his life in exile towards northwest India and Iran, right? And after the Battle of the Machiwara and Sirhind in May and June 1555, he again reclaimed his he regained the control over the Delhi, right? So Battle of Chausa, that was fought in 1539 with Sher Khan, and then there was Battle of Kannauj. This is also known as Battle of Bilgrami in 1540, right? And then he had to leave India for 15 years, and during this time there was the Sur Empire ruling in Delhi from 1540 to 1555. right? Now, after the Battle of Kannauj, Humayun now became a prince without a kingdom and he had to flee from Delhi. He was in exile for the next 15 years. 15 years. Now, again, he struggled to recapture Delhi. Captured Delhi, Lahore in February 1555. Humayun captured Lahore in 1555, and then the Battle of Machhiwara was fought in May 1555, and then he fought another battle, that's the Battle of Sirhind in June 1555, recaptured Delhi by the end of 1555. But unfortunately, in January 1556, he died. Humayun died after falling from the stairs of his library, on his death. Lane pull aptly comments that he was toddling throughout his life and toddled out of life. The literal meaning of the Humayun was fortunate, but he was not fortunate, and that's why very aptly Laneful commented on his death that he was toddling throughout his life and toddled out of his life. Right? And his tomb is in Delhi. Humayun tomb is in Delhi. Is it okay? Now, sirs and madam, Sur Dynasty, right? This was established by Sayyid Suri. And Sayyid Shah was a Zagirdar of Shasharam. He served under the Afghan governors of Bihar, Bahar Khan Lohani, who had given him the title of Sher Khan, right? He had fought the Battle of Surajgarh in 1533 to consolidate his position in Bengal, and he had defeated the Sultan Mahmud Shah of Bengal. Then he also defeated Humayun in the Battle of Chausa in 1539 and Battle of Kannauj in 1540. Why these years are important? You may get all these three battles, Surajgarh, then Battle of Chausa and Battle of Kannauj, to arrange them in the sequence: 1533, then 1539 and 1540. Now, sirs and madam, after his death, in 1545, actually once he was on the expedition of the fort of the Kalinjar, and when the ruler of the Kalinjar was Kirat Singh, so he was outside the fort and he was firing he just thrown a fireball. He was supposed to throw a fireball to destroy the fort, right? But unfortunately, that fireball misfired and he caught fire in the gunpowder which was kept besides the Sher Shah. And in this gunpowder, he just caught fire and he died after burning. So after Sher Shah, his son Islam Shah Sur became the next Sultan. It continued for next years. Islam Shah was succeeded by Firoz Shah and then Adil Shah Sur. Okay? Adil Shah Sur. So right, and again in 1555, Humayun replaced them from the throne of Delhi, and and it was established by it was under the control of the Mughals, right? Is it okay? Now, after the death of Humayun in 1556, Akbar became the Sultan. And the Badshah, not the Sultan. I'm sorry, that's called Badshah. Akbar became the Badshah. Akbar was an illiterate Badshah. He had no formal education. He was a great warrior, but he was not a literate one. Right, sirs and madam? Is it okay? So at the age of 13 years and 4 months, he became the Badshah of Delhi, right? Again, but when he became the Badshah, his authority was challenged by Hemu, who was a converted Muslim, and he had captured the throne of the Delhi when Akbar was in Punjab after his coronation. So the Baram Khan led the second battle of the Panipat from the side of the Akbar to defeat Hemu. The second battle of Panipat was fought in 1556 between Akbar and Hemu, in which the Mughal army was led by Baram Khan, right? Baram Khan. It's okay? Baram Khan, right? Baram Khan. But after the departure of Baram Khan, Akbar was busy in expanding and consolidating his empire, and he had expanded his empire in Gwalior, Malwa, and Gondwana. Gondwana was also known as Gadkatanga when the ruler was Rani Durgavati, who was the widow of Queen Dalpat Singh. And it is said that Rani Durgavati was expert in lion hunting. 1572, Gujarat, Muzaffar Shah. Just because of the economic importance of the Gujarat, because Gujarat was a coastal province, so he wanted to establish his control to get the taxes from this, navigations and the sea routes. So he led the expedition of Gujarat in 1572 during the time of Muzaffar Shah. And in the memory of this victory, he had constructed Buland Darwaza at Fatehpur Sikri. In Rajputana, he had developed good relation with the Amir, that is called Ambar or the Jaipur, during the time of Raja Bharmal, and his son Bhagwan Das and his grandson Mansingh were into the service of the Akbar. And then he also married to the Amir princess Jodhabai. Now in 1568, he had led the expedition of the Chittor, which is considered as a blot on the part of the Akbar, because during the Chittor expedition, he had not considered the women, child, and the oldest people, and he butchered everyone. It was a kind of the massacre. So it is considered as a blot on the part of the Akbar. So 1568, he led the expedition of Chittor or Mewar, right? Chittor or Mewar. Is it okay? Chittor or Mewar, right? Then Maharana Pratap. Okay, Maharana. So it was during the time of Rana Uday Singh. When Rana Uday Singh was the ruler of Mewar, he led the expedition of Chittor. But after Uday Singh, one of the biggest threat was Maharana Pratap. He was the son of Uday Singh. And with Maharana Pratap, the Battle of Haldighati was fought in 1576 between the Akbar and the Maharana Pratap. In this battle, Mughal army was led by Man Singh. But again, in this battle, Maharana Pratap was defeated, but never Mewar was subdued before the Akbar. Mewar never subdued, never accepted the suzerainty or the sovereignty of the Mughals. They were defeated, but they never accepted the suzerainty of the Akbar. It was only Rajput states that never accepted the suzerainty of the Akbar. That is called your Mewar, right? Now, his religious policy. Under his religious policy, he had prohibited conversion of prisoners of war. POW stands for prisoner of wars. He had prohibited pilgrim tax. He had abolished jizya tax in 1564. In 1573, he met with Sheikh Mubarak Faizi and Abul Fazl, who had moderated his personality further after Jodhabai. In 1575, he had established Ibadat Khana, house of worship, to interact with the scholars of the different religion, to understand whether the religions are conflicting or they are talking about some kind of synchronization or some kind of conciliation. So he thought that no, they are not contradicting, rather they are talking about the conciliations, right? Now, in 1579, he declared Mazharnama, which was infallible decree, just to replace the role of, or just to undermine the role of the ulemas and the mullahs in the matter of the politics. He had came up with a decree that is called the infallible decree, that is called Mazharnama. And after coming with the Mazharnama, he had declared himself Imam-e Adil, that is called a just ruler. So whatever I am doing, that is just, and that is what? That is in the welfare of the people. In 1528, he had established Tawhid-e-Ilahi or Din-e-Ilahi in Din-e-Ilahi. So this was his initiatives, right, sister madam? Now, Din-e-Ilahi. And this Din-e-Ilahi was not a socio-religious, it was not a religion, it was but a socio-religious order. And is it okay? This is fine, sister madam? Now, coming to this some other discussion. Akbar's court was decorated by the 9 illuminaries, or the 9 gems of the different walks of the life. They are known as Nauratna. One such was Abul Fazl. He had written Ain-e-Akbari and the Akbar Nama, right? Then is Faizi. He had translated Lilavati into the Persian language. Fakir Aziuddin was a Sufi mysticism and one of the chief religious advisors of the Akbar. Tansen, his original name was Ramtanu Pandey, and he was a great musician, and he was the disciple of the Swami Haridas. Right? Now Tansen, right? Now Raja Birbal or Mahesh Das, right? Raja Birbal or Mahesh. His original name was Mahesh Das, right? Raja Birbal or Mahesh Das. Then Raja Todarmal. He was a finance minister who looked the revenue system. Raja Man Singh was a Mansabdar and grandson of Akbar's father-in-law. He was a Mansabdar, grandson of the Akbar's father-in-law, trusted, and he was a trusted general. He was a Mansabdar. Abdul Rahim Khane Khana, he was a great poet, son of Bairam Khan, although he was a Muslim by birth, but he was a devotee of Lord Krishna, and he has translated Babarnama into Persian language. Mirza Aziz Koka, he was Khane Azam and Kotlas, right? Is it okay? He was a Subedar of the Gujarat. During his time, painting was also growing, flourishing, although the Mughal painting was at its zenith during the time of Jahangir. But painting also, recorded some remarkable achievements during the time of Akbar also. And the most important painting was Hamza Nama, which is consisted of 1200 paintings belong to this reign. Is it okay? Is it fine? Chalo. Now coming to his poets. From the time of Akbar, Hindi poets were attached to the Mughal court. And contemporaries were Tulsi Das, who wrote Ramcharitramanas. Surdas was also contemporary of Akbar, and he had written Sur Saravali and Sahitya Lahiri. Is it okay? Now coming to Jahangir. And Akbar is also known for the Mansabdari system and the Jagirdari system. Akbar also introduced Tuladan and Jharokha Darshan, right? Tuladan and Jharokha Darshan. So now Jahangir. Akbar also, let me write that. Akbar also introduced Mansabdari system in Mughal administration. Introduced. But it was not the creator of Mansabdari system. Mansabdari system, right? He was not the creator of this Mansabdari system. Not the creator. He just introduced the Mansabdari system in the Mughal army. Right? Then he had Akbar also started the tradition of Tuladan, weighing his body weight in gems and the jewelry and to distribute it among the poor and the needy people. Jharokha Darshan, it was something, Jharokha Darshan, to coming into the window to give a glance to his people, to establish a personal connect with the people. Jharokha Darshan, during the time of the Jahangir, Jharokha Darshan, Queen also started appearing, and both these traditions were discontinued by Aurangzeb, right? So now coming to Jahangir. He was the eldest son of Jodhabai and Akbar. His name was Salim, after the blessings of Sheikh Salim Chishti. First British official, Captain Hawkins, came in the court of Jahangir as the representative of East India Company. Second British Thomas Roe came his court as the British envoy, right? So Captain Hawkins, and then your Thomas Roe, right? Now he wrote a book that is called Tujhke Jahangiri. During his reign, Abdul Hamid Lahori wrote Padshah Nama. He married to Mehrunisha, popularly known as Noor Jahan, light of the world, and she was a widow of Jagirdar of Bengal, that is called Sher Afghan. With Noor Jahan, new phase of the polity started in the Mughal Empire, and she had secured a very strong position in the Mughal court, and she had developed a junta of his close associate, that is known as Noor Jahan junta, in which Noor Jahan himself was there. Then his father, Itmauddaulah, Ud, Udda, Uddaulah, popularly known as Ghiyas Bey. Then his brother Asaf Khan, and then Prince Khurram, later on known as Shah Jahan, were in the Noor Jahan junta. It was very powerful and remained very active till 1620. She appointed her father Ghiyas Bey as the Wazir and brother as Khane Shama in the Mughal court, right? So this is what is about the Jahangir, right, sir and madam? Now, Noor Jahan's feature, control of all important affairs of the empire was in the hands of junta. Noor Jahan was the constant companion of Jahangir, including the hunt. She was a sure shot. She used to appear in Jharokha Darshan with Badshah also, right? The tradition of Jharokha Darshan and Tuladan was started by Akbar. Mughal painting, Mughal painting reached its zenith under the Jahangir. He employed a number of painters like Abul Hasan, Bisan Das, Madhu, Anant, Manohar, Govardhan, and Ustad Mansur. Ustad Mansur was a specialist in animal painting, and Bisan Das was regarded as a master of the portrait painting. Under Jahangir, special progress was made in the portrait painting, right, sister and madam? Now, Jahangir was the first Basa who had issued the coins bearing his portrait. Jahangir died in 1627 at Sadra, Lahore, on the bank of river Ravi. Now, coming to Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan was the son of Jahangir. His original name was Khurram, was the third son of the Mughal emperor. He was crowned in Agra in 1628, 4 months after the Jahangir death, and he had took the title of Shah Jahan. In 1632, he had annexed one of the Dakhini states that is called Ahmednagar, that I told you, and Bijapur and Golconda in 1686 and 1687 by the Aurangzeb, right? So he annexed Ahmednagar, and in 1632, Shah Jahan defeated Portuguese near Hooghly due to regular abuse, trading privileges by them. Governor of Bengal, Qasim Khan, pursued the Portuguese, but there was a permanent loss of the Kandahar. So now you can understand this was the decline of the Mughal Empire, right? At one point, he is annexing the new states like Ahmednagar in 1632, but he lost the northwest, the Kandahar in the northwest of India. And then, if I talk about what I say, that is your Portuguese. His relation was initially good with the Europeans, but Portuguese had secured some of the privileges in the Bengal, but they started misusing it, right? So misusing it. So when it was being misused, he had punished them. So this was the thing, sirs and madam. Now coming to famine during Shah Jahan's reign. During Shah Jahan's reign, there was a famine. Which was reported by Peter Mundy as the Deccan famine. Deccan famine took place in 1630. Abdul Hamid Lahori, in his book Padshah Nama, writes about the famine relief measures taken by the Shah Jahan. Is it okay? Now, the Mughal architecture attained its climax, and he had constructed Taj Mahal, Jama Masjid in Delhi. Then he had constructed the Pearl Mosque in Agra, in Red Fort of Agra, Agra by Shah Jahan. There is again one mosque, Pearl Mosque, that is in the Red Fort of Delhi. This was constructed by Aurangzeb. Please keep in your mind, right? So Pearl Mosque in Red Fort of Agra, right, sirs and madam? Now, it's okay. Dara Shikoh was the eldest son of Shah Jahan, and he was the most learned Mughal princess. Dara Shikoh was a cultured person, and he has written book like Mazm-ul-Bahrain, that is called Mingling of the Two Oceans and the Confluence of the Two Seas. And then there was another one that is called Sir-e-Akbar, the another book written by him, Sir-e-Akbar. So there's two books, Mazm-ul-Bahrain, and then other one is your Sir-e-Akbar, right, sirs and madam? Aurangzeb, last ruler, is also known as Alamgir, the conqueror of the world. Mughal Empire reached its greatest territorial limits as the longest reigning Mughal emperor, right? His South India expedition can be divided into two parts. Actually, when Aurangzeb became the Badshah of the Delhi, His reign was almost for the 50 years, and which is the longest reign of the Mughal Badshahs, right? So first half can be seen his activity in the North India, and the second half in the South. In the South India, his three important, there was the most important, the most formidable enemy was Shivaji Maharaj of the Marathas, and he had to annex the two Dakkani states, that's called Bijapur and the Golconda, right? So he had annexed Bijapur and Golconda in 1686 and 1887. But Shivaji was a menace for Aurangzeb, right? So for suppressing the Shivaji, he had sent one of his ablest officials, who was the Raja of Jaipur, that is called Jai Singh. So Aurangzeb dispatched Mirza Raja Jai Singh of Amber against Shivaji. Jai Singh surrounded Shivaji in the fort of Purandar, and leading to sign a treaty that is called Treaty of Purandar. That is a very important treaty between the Shivaji and the Jai Singh. As per this treaty, Shivaji had to surrender 23 forts out of 35 in Deccan, and agreed to serve and remain loyal to the Mughal throne in person. Under pressure, Shivaji committed to visit Aurangzeb's court in Agra, and hereafter, however, after being humiliated, Shivaji executed a miraculous escape in 1666. And after escaping from the Mughal imprisonment, Shivaji asserted independence as the ruler of the Maratha kingdom and was ceremonially crowned at Chhatrapati in 1674 at Raigad. That is an important year. He established Raigad as his capital and created a large Maratha territory. But he died at 1680 at Raigad in 1680. With his death, the greatest challenge of Aurangzeb came to an end. Then after, Aurangzeb annexed Bijapur in 1686 and Golconda in 1687. But even after these victories, Aurangzeb kept on wandering from one fort to the other fort, and finally he died in 1787 at Aurangzeb. There are certain controversial policies and religious stances of Aurangzeb. One of his primary reasons of Aurangzeb's controversial reputation stems from his religious policies. Simply, see here. He wanted to convert India into Islamic state, that is called Darul Islam. He had prohibited women to visit the mazars to seek the blessings. He had banned all the music and the singing in his court, right? He stopped the practice of writing khutbas reading khutbas and striking coins. That is called what I say. Khutba is reading the khutba on his name. Khutba is on name, and then kalma. He also stopped writing the kalmas on the coins. These are the things that he had done. But the largest number of the mansabdars was during the time of Aurangzeb itself. Largest number of the mansabdars, and he had also translated one of the largest number of the Sanskrit texts in the Persian languages. He himself was a great expert in the veena playing, etc. Right? Now, as far as the Muslim is concerned, he was tolerant. He was also not tolerant of the other Muslim sects, like celebration of Muharram was stopped because it was a Shia practice, and Aurangzeb was a Sunni. In Sikh, he executed the 9th Sikh Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, which resulted in the rebellion of the Sikh community against him. So none of them was in support of the Aurangzeb, whether it's Muslims completely, Hindus were against him, Sikhs were against him, etc. He gave excessive powers to the office of Muhtasib, and this officer was entrusted with a job to enforce moral codes and saras. That is an important one. So just to maintain the Sharia, to promote the Sharia, or this is your and the moral codes, he had appointed the officer that is called Muhtasib. Throughout his kingdom, drinking was prohibited, and cultivation and the use of bhang and other drugs were banned. Is it okay? He forbade music in Mughal court and discontinued the practice of Jharukha Darshan and the Tula Dan. Is it okay, sirs and madam? Okay. And he had also, during his time, Muhammad Qasim had written Alamgirnama. Alamgirnama is the court history of Emperor Aurangzeb. Okay. Futuhat-e-Alamgir was written by Ishwachand Nagar, and Fatwa-e-Alamgir is composed by Aurangzeb himself. The book is Great Book of Islamic Law. Aurangzeb died in 1707 at the age of 88 at Ahmednagar Fort. The tomb is located in the city of Kulalabad, in the city of Aurangabad. So with this, we can end this session also, and I believe this would be an insightful session, and you must have a quick revision for all these things. Thank you very much.